Hi, Jennifer. Thanks very much for being with us today at the Global Adaptation Institute of Notre Dame. First off, you have an important position within IBM. IBM is a leader in thinking through sustainability and climate. Can you tell us a bit about how you and IBM are thinking about sustainability?
Sure. Well, I'm very fortunate to work for a company that thinks a lot about sustainability, both for ourselves, for our clients, and then for the world at large. The part of IBM that I have the privilege to lead is the part focused on how we can affect things for society, so global citizenship initiatives. And we spend a lot of time thinking about sustainability in the broadest sense of the word, from environmental issues to financial and public health areas as well.
Yeah. Tell me about, you've created at IBM a really innovative program called CSE. Tell us a bit about that and some of the thinking behind that and what you've accomplished.
Thanks. Corporate Service Corps is IBM's version of the Peace Corps. We started it in 2008, and the notion was basically one of the best things that we could give to the world is the talent and technology that we have at IBM. And so we send people out in teams of 10 to 12 at a time into developing countries to work on a variety of different projects, some of them environmental, economic development, and the like. And those teams typically represent 10 to 12 different countries. So they're there and bring their diversity and global view, as well as their diversity of experience. So there may be software people, there may be engineers, there may be people who have worked in industry, or maybe people who have worked in marketing that can help think through communications. And they bring all of that together to help solve a problem.
It's terrific. So we know that the climate is changing. We know that there are vulnerable people in the world. How are you and IBM thinking about resiliency, and maybe with at first with a question around the business risks and the impact to business
Sure.
of vulnerable workforces, vulnerable supply chains, and building resilience in the developing world?
Right. So I would say that it's in the developing world and in major markets, and business continuity services, which is one of the things we think about, is on the minds of every client that we do business with. Clearly, the first thing they come to IBM for is thinking about how do they secure their technology and make sure they don't have downtime, because downtime is very costly in terms of money and in terms of lives in some cases. Mm-hmm. So if we're working with a hospital, if we're working with a bank, they really can't afford to have any downtime. And so we work on, of course, making sure that we have redundancy in systems, that their servers are up, that they can access their data. But what we really try to do is to go beyond that and to think in a far more holistic way about, what other aspects, what other costs, what business processes, what, people issues do you need to think about in advance to make sure that when disaster strikes, or even as just the world changes, you're able to adapt in a very agile way as a business.
How has it been getting a big corporation, a blue chip, top-notch corporation, to think about sustainability, about adaptation, building resilience, with there being so many other needs and philanthropic tugs at the corporate purse strings?
Right. Well, I think from all of the different tugs are very interrelated. We're systems thinkers at IBM, and so we think about the way that environmental issues then affect public health. You can't disconnect the two. So another program that we work on is Smarter Cities Challenge, and as anyone how populations are moving into cities. And so one axis that we've thought about tackling that problem is through an urban lens. So take Louisville, Kentucky. This is a city that we awarded a Smarter Cities Challenge grant to. We sent a team to Louisville because they had a rising rate of childhood asthma. #1 childhood asthma rate in the country, growing quickly, they don't know why. And so what they wanted to do was to try to put devices on kids' puffers so that when a kid took a hit and in the middle of an asthma attack, we can track real time where they are, what's the temperature, what's the traffic like around them, what's the humidity level, what other kinds of events are happening within the city that day, so that then we can do real-time geospatial mapping to correlate environmental issues with public health issues. So to your question, are there things that we do specifically around climate change and sustainability? Of course. But I think more and more frequently we're finding that it's connected to traffic issues, it's connected to public health issues and the like.
It's so interesting that it's perfect for IBM to add a technology and a systems angle to a solution. Where else in the developing world, if you had to create a heat map of where IBM has initiatives or has interest and appetite to focus on resilience and vulnerability issues, where else in the world would you point to? What is your interest going forward?
Sure. I don't know that there is a heat map. We've done Smarter Cities Challenge engagements in all 6 inhabited continents, and we see requests coming in from mayors around the world and similarly from NGOs. Clearly, coastal properties, anything on a coast has its own issues in terms of disaster response, water management, erosion, land-associated issues. We just did a very interesting project in Suffolk County about water waste treatment. We can then take the learnings of that and cross-apply it to a lot of other parts of the world that are dealing with similar issues. We did a project 2 months ago, I think, with the Nature Conservancy in Brazil on deforestation, and really a lot of it having to do with people being able to communicate and get engaged very quickly and provide data about deforestation issues that are happening on private property.
You guys have done an enormous amount, and IBM is clearly seen as a leader. Give us some tips for influencing the C-suite in other corporations. How have you gotten so much traction? How have you made it a C-suite agenda and have accomplished so much? What are your tips to the rest of us in our corporations to get the movement and momentum and attention from the C-suite?
Well, I think you nailed it. C-suite support is huge, and we've been very fortunate to have 3 consecutive CEOs who have been very supportive of the citizenship mission. But it can't just be top-down. And I think one of the things that we've really channeled at IBM is pulling on the ideas of our entire workforce and really asking them to contribute. We're scientists. We're logical thinkers and engineers and data technicians at IBM, and so these are people who believe in science, and they care very much about environmental issues, and they read the science that's out there, and they want to make a difference.
So it's as much around employee appetite and getting hitting on a broad base of employee support, as well as getting attention from the C-suite.
Yeah, it's C-suite, it's employees, it's a regulatory environment that is pushing us to excel. It's a millennial generation that only wants to work for companies that are doing positive things on climate change and sustainability. It's a lot of different factors, and I think when you harness all of that into a compelling package, it gets the C-suite attention that people need.
And one last question around ND Gain. ND Gain has put together now, increasingly a well-respected and quite well-known index of vulnerability and readiness. How might you see that impacting and integrating into the type of work that you do?
I think it's really important, and my hat's off to ND Gain and to other organizations that really push us to standardize our reporting, to keep a focus on that, to search to win prizes like the prizes that are here, and to just keep that focus on those criteria. So I think all of that is really important in encouraging corporations to strive for the next challenge.
That's great. That's great. Well, thank you for being here. We look forward to your comments later in the day, and you're a terrific model of how a good for society agenda can be moved forward in a big corporation. So thank you,
Terrific.
Jennifer.
Thanks very much. I appreciate
Great.
it.